She wasn't supposed to record it, but when your commanding officer breaks the law mid-interrogation, you either stay silent or hit recorder on. There's a moment right before you press record that feels like stepping off a ledge. Your finger hovers, the air thickens. You ask yourself if this is the moment your career fractures, or if it's the one that defines you. For Officer Jessica Knight, that moment came in Interrogation Room 2 at 10:43 a.m. The walls buzzed faintly with fluorescent lighting, the ceiling fan wobbled in lazy rebellion, and a half-empty styrofoam cup of vending machine coffee sat untouched near the corner of the metal table. Across from her, Lieutenant Daryl D. Montrose paced like a lion with a limp. He wasn't supposed to be leading the interview, not anymore. The suspect, a 17-year-old boy with a shaved head and terrified eyes, stared at the scuffed linoleum like it might swallow him whole. No lawyer, no guardian, just him, the lieutenant, and Jessica, and a pre-filled confession form waiting like a trapdoor between them. Jessica's badge itched on her chest, not physically, morally. Montrose leaned in close to the boy, his voice lower now, coaxing. "Listen, you sign this, you get leniency. You walk out with probation, no signing?" He let the silence hang. "That's juvie, maybe worse." Jessica blinked slowly. They hadn't Mirandized him. Not officially. The line hadn't been read. Not yet. Not even a whisper of it. The moment the lieutenant slid that form across the table, her stomach coiled. Then came the sentence. "Sign the confession, and you'll be forgiven," the lieutenant said, his voice smooth like old whiskey, tapping the form twice for emphasis. And Jessica, silent, still, staring, tapped her left wrist below the table where her department-issued body mic had been switched off. Her own personal recorder, a discreet black oval clipped to her belt loop, blinked red as she pressed the side. "Recorder on." She said nothing, just breathed. The air had shifted. 2 seconds later, Montrose repeated himself. "You'll be forgiven. We'll make it all go away." The kid nodded, hand trembling as he reached for the pen. And that's when Jessica, heart pounding, interrupted. "Sir," she said carefully, "we haven't gone over Miranda." The room froze. Montrose didn't look at her, not at first, then slowly, like a scene rehearsed in his mind, he turned. His face tightened. "Interview's voluntary. He's not in custody." The boy blinked. "I thought I couldn't leave." Jessica's pulse kicked. "That's not what he was told." Montrose's eyes narrowed. Her finger tapped the side of her recorder again. Not off, saved. An audit trail was now in motion. That night, she didn't sleep. Every thought looped back to the sound of her own voice saying, "We haven't gone over Miranda." The moment she'd crossed the invisible line between loyalty and law, between silence and the truth. And in the morning, a white envelope sat in her inbox. No return name. Just subpoena, 29-1. Inside, a request from the prosecutor's office for any and all audio recordings of the Montrose interview. They knew, and now they were listening. You won't believe what the lieutenant did next. But it wasn't his first time. The envelope felt radioactive. Jessica stared at it for a full minute before touching it, like if she opened it wrong, it might explode into a career-ending mushroom cloud. Her desk, always meticulously organized, badge polished, pens aligned, laptop lid wiped down with alcohol pads, now felt like a crime scene. Her hands hesitated over the seal. This wasn't just paperwork. This was a signal, a quiet one, but unmistakable. Somewhere, someone had flagged what happened in Interrogation Room 2. The fact that the subpoena, Injura 2091, landed without prior notice told her everything she needed to know. No whisper in the hallway. No head up from internal. Just a sterile legal demand in a white envelope like a ghost had slid it under her door. She pulled out the contents slowly. A single sheet of paper with a department seal. Official request: all unedited audio from the interaction involving Lieutenant Montrose and the subject on file, DAR 77422A. Date: yesterday. Time: 10:43 a.m. Attached: judge's signature, digital chain of custody instructions. Deadline: 24 hours. There was no mention of Miranda, no mention of misconduct. But Jessica wasn't naive. The prosecutor's office didn't go fishing unless someone dropped blood in the water. She walked the recorder into the secure upload station herself. No assistant, no chain delay. She logged it into the internal system, entered the file number, uploaded the raw audio, and triple-checked that the audit trail read clean. Then she hit send. There was no going back. 23 minutes later, her department inbox chimed again. Subject line: interview halted. Sender: Division Legal Oversight. Body: effective immediately, all interviews involving Lieutenant Montrose are to be suspended pending administrative review. Further notice will follow. Jessica's mouth went dry. She'd thrown the first stone. Quietly, legally. But the ripples were already hitting the walls. She heard the buzz before she saw them. HR reps, 2 of them, gliding down the hallway in crisp navy suits, clipboards in hand. Emotionless as tax returns. They didn't look left or right, but one of them whispered a name under her breath. Jessica's name. Jessica pretended not to notice. She straightened her back and returned to her reports like nothing had changed. But everything had. That afternoon, someone remotely disabled her login to the department printer system. A minor thing, easy to blame on a glitch, only. Her Excel access vanished too. That night, an unsigned note slipped into her locker. 4 words, handwritten in block caps: "Know your chain, Knight." And on the back, a printed photo of her in the hallway outside interrogation room 2. Camera angle, ceiling corner, source, internal surveillance, no signature, no timestamp, just her, standing alone. They were watching her now, and they were warning her. But the question was, who else had something to hide? Suspicious notes, vanished access, silent threats. What would you do in Jessica's shoes? Let us know below. And stay tuned, they warned her. She hit record anyway. By the next morning, the precinct felt colder, not in temperature, in tone. Conversations clipped short when Jessica walked past. Jokes that used to bounce between desks now died mid-sentence. The vending machine that always accidentally dropped her favorite cinnamon protein bar now stubbornly refused to take her badge scan. She didn't say anything, because if she did, the whispers would only get louder. When she arrived at her desk, her station phone was already blinking red. Voicemail. She played it with a sinking feeling. "Officer Knight, this is Marla Hensley, legal rep for the prosecutor's office. We've reviewed the audio under subpoena OMR 2091. The timestamp confirms your note on the pre-Miranda violation. We'll need you for a deposition Thursday, 9 a.m. sharp. Confidential, of course." Her heart beat once, loud and clear. The system had heard her. But would it protect her? Midday, the HR team formally asked her to step into a private room. The walls were painted a calming blue, but the edges of the space felt sharp. The older rep, a woman with silver glasses and a clipboard full of friendly procedure, smiled as she began the tap dance of departmental neutrality. "Jessica, this is just a check-in," she said. "We've had a few anonymous concerns about morale." Jessica didn't flinch. Morale, not ethics? A pause, scribble. "Anything you'd like to share about your interactions with Lieutenant Montrose lately?" Jessica leaned forward. "Anything specific?" Another pause, another scribble. They weren't here for answers. They were here for leverage. As she walked out, her phone buzzed, not a call. A calendar invite. Sender, unknown. Subject, chain of command. Time, 7 p.m. Location, redacted. Just the basement. The department didn't have a place officially called that, but every officer knew what it meant. At 6:57, Jessica stood in front of the unmarked gray door behind the archive cages. No badge reader, no camera, just a narrow staircase that dipped into poorly lit brick. She knocked once, then again. The door creaked open. Inside, 4 people stood around a battered folding table. No uniforms, no ranks. A woman from internal, a tech from records, an officer from vice, and one more, a man from legal oversight she'd only seen in distant meetings, always silent, always watching. On the table, a laptop already playing her audio clip. Montrose's voice filled the room. "Sign the confession, and you'll be forgiven." Paused. The woman from internal looked up. "We've been waiting for someone to break the cycle," she said. Jessica didn't sit yet. Cycle of what? The room looked at one another, then back at her. The last 5 cases Montrose handled had one thing in common, the man from legal said. No Miranda, no lawyer, no paper trail, just a signed confession form and a closed file. Jessica's throat tightened. Why hasn't this gone to the press? "We don't leak," the vice officer said. "We build cases." "And you recorded him," the tech added. "That makes you the only one with clean audio in the entire department." Jessica swallowed. They weren't just warning her now. They were recruiting her. But if she said yes, there would be no turning back. Sleduše glava. She stared at the table. The laptop screen still glowed with the frozen waveform of Montrose's voice. Her voice. The boy's silence. The weight of every paused second. Jessica didn't sit yet, not because she was unsure, but because her knees felt like glass. "You want me to go on record?" she asked quietly. "No," said the man from legal oversight. "We want you to go deeper." The woman from internal pushed a slim file toward her. Thick black marker redacted most of the names, but a few jumped out like bruises on white skin. Case 7618. Subject age 15. Case 974. Subject age 16. Case 300. Subject age 14. All boys, all from the same neighborhood, all interrogated by Montrose, all signed confession forms before Miranda was ever read. Jessica closed the file slowly. "So you've known?" The vice officer nodded. "But without evidence, it's career suicide to accuse a decorated lieutenant with ties to the captain," Jessica finished for him, "and the city liaison committee." The tech smirked. "You've been paying attention." The internal affairs woman tapped a USB on the table. "There's a gap in the audit trail between 2019 and 2021. We believe Montrose conducted over a dozen off-record interrogations in that time. No recordings, no oversight, just interview closed and signatures." Jessica exhaled. "And you think I can find one?" They all looked at her, like a scalpel, precise, dangerous. "You're clean," the woman said. "You're smart. And they already suspect you. That gives you access we can't get without triggering a lockdown." Jessica felt the blood in her throat. She thought back to the locker note. The printer access revoked. The cinnamon bar that never dropped. They weren't accidents. They were warnings. And they were escalating. "You'll be shadowing records for a week," the legal oversight man said. "Temporary rotation. Officially unrelated. And unofficially, you'll be looking for the digital ghosts, erased tapes, deleted logs, unplugged cameras. If he slipped up even once, we need it." Jessica finally sat down. Her heart beat like a slow siren in her chest. "I want written immunity, chain of protection. If this goes public..." "It won't," The internal woman interrupted. Not until the evidence is bulletproof. Jessica narrowed her eyes. I'm not interested in proof. I'm interested in patterns. The room went silent. Then, one by one, they nodded. She took the USB and slipped it into her jacket. Her new assignment started in less than 6 hours, and when she stepped back out into the night, she could swear the shadows behind the precinct moved with her. What she finds in the archives will not only shatter one career, it may unravel the department. The records unit smelled like dust and decades. Not that old kind of dust you find in libraries, but the sterile, dead paper scent of bureaucracy. Cold, precise, processed. Jessica showed up at 08 to Sosar sharp, badge clipped to her shirt collar, hair tight, face unreadable. The front desk clerk barely looked up. Knight, you're the temporary, right? Cubicle 3. Passwords taped under the keyboard. Just like that. No questions, no greetings. She was already invisible. Perfect. Cubicle 3 sat in the middle row, flanked by towering gray cabinets and the hum of a dying AC vent. She slid into the chair and powered up the machine. The screen blinked. Logan, Janite, Raw Temp. She typed the password, 6 digits and a question mark, and began. First, the internal catalog, thousands of hours of interview logs, all tagged by badge number, time code, and audio status. She filtered by Montrose's ID, DM2197, then added audio missing and status interview closed. Her hand tensed, 16 results. She clicked the oldest, date, March 14th, 2020. Subject, redacted audio, not available video, not found confession form. Yes, Miranda. Read, no record officer. Notes, interview closed, all signed, all sealed, all approved, all blank. The next 2 showed the same pattern, then the 4th broke it. Interview, DM 2197-004. Subject, unnamed minor audio, partial. Video, unavailable. Transcription, incomplete. Flag, internal use only. Jessica's pulse flickered. She opened the file. Instead of the usual form, it contained a scanned printout of a transcription fragment. 0 works teams so 3, Latte Montrose. This doesn't have to be hard, you know. Your coach already said you were near the park. 00 Potter 14, 11, subject. But I didn't do anything. 00 14, 15, Latte Montrose. Then just sign. I'll make sure no one ever sees it again. 00 14, 24. Audio glitch detected. 00 14, 31. Lidit Montrose. They always forgive you if you cooperate early. Her throat tightened. The line? Almost the same as the one she'd recorded. She scanned the metadata. The file had been scrubbed in 2021, but not fully. The audit trail showed an internal access code labeled Override CPT702. Captain's credentials? She took a screenshot, transferred it to her encrypted drive, then ran a second query, Override CPT702 plus interviews. 6 more hits, including one for a 13-year-old who disappeared from the city database after a closed case label. Jessica sat back in the chair, her mind spinning. These weren't just sloppy records, they were fingerprints, carefully wiped but not invisible. She looked up. The clerk was gone. The lights overhead buzzed louder. Her phone buzzed once. Unknown sender. Someone just accessed the audit logs. Be out in 10. Your chain is breaking. Jessica slammed the laptop shut, shoved the USB into her coat, and walked out like nothing happened. But in her gut, she knew. Someone else was in the system. And they were watching what she watched. And what she'd just found? It wouldn't just threaten Montrose, it might expose who taught him. Sledishiglava. The parking garage beneath the precinct was never quiet, not fully. It had that eerie echo of clacking heels, distant engines, a whine from the flickering fluorescent tubes overhead. Jessica moved quickly, every step deliberate. The air smelled of brake fluid and concrete rot. She didn't look over her shoulder. She didn't have to. Someone was tailing her, not close, not stupid, but familiar enough to keep just out of sight. Her hand grazed her side, not her weapon, her phone. She hit voice memos, whispered a timestamp, and let it roll. Exit garage, north stairwell, 6:47 p.m., unknown tail, likely internal. She stepped past the line of department vehicles and ducked behind a tan Civic with a half-torn city parking tag. Then stopped. Nothing. Until a shoe, soft-soled, stepping behind a concrete support beam. She didn't wait. Jessica pivoted, moved low and fast around the opposite row, her phone still recording. She made it to the stairwell door, yanked it open, and face to face with the man from legal oversight. "Night," he said too calmly. "We need to talk." Her pulse thudded in her ears. "You sent me in blind. You knew they were still cleaning records." He didn't deny it. Instead, he handed her a sealed manila folder. "Montrose is small time," he said. "You're chasing a middleman." She stared. "Who's the top?" The man's jaw clenched. "The chain of command leads higher than you think. 2 captains, maybe a deputy chief, but the name you need is in that folder." Jessica hesitated. "You couldn't send it digitally?" He smiled grimly. "Digital footprints are how they find you." She opened it with shaking fingers. At the top of the first page, "Confidential, Liaison Log 2018-2022. Below that, a list of off-the-record interrogations, all stamped with identical approval initials. "JL." Jessica blinked. "JL?" The man nodded. "Jack Langford, Assistant Deputy Commissioner, Internal Affairs Liaison." He paused. "Technically, my boss." The folder crackled in her hands. Langford, the same man who presented commendations every quarter, who gave calm speeches about reform, who once told her at a Christmas mixer that justice is a slow burn. Jessica felt the burn now, in her chest. "If you go public with this," the man warned, "he'll bury you before sunrise." Jessica stared down at the folder. "There's a reason Montrose always walked free," she said. "Yes, and a reason you're still alive." She looked up. "He's not done, is he?" "No," the man said. "And he's escalating, fast." Jessica closed the folder, then looked the man dead in the eye. "Then we escalate faster?" She turned and walked back up the stairs, not toward safety, but toward the next breach. Because now she wasn't just documenting the truth. She was preparing to expose the person who built the entire machine. And they had no idea how close she'd just come. The next morning, her precinct login failed. Not just one system. All of them: email, dispatch, case archive. Even her physical badge triggered a red light at the lobby gate, followed by a hollow beep and the words "access denied." Jessica stood still. The uniform at reception tilted his head, puzzled. "System's probably glitching," he said unconvincingly. "Happened to someone else last week." "Who?" she asked. He blinked. "Can't recall." She didn't push. She knew the drill. Digital exile was never about error. It was a message. She turned, left the building, and walked 3 blocks before stopping under the awning of a closed donut shop. Rain had just started falling. Slow, deliberate drops like someone above was thinking it over. She pulled out a burner phone, tapped a preset number, and waited. "Night," a voice said, on the 3rd ring. It was the internal affairs woman from the basement. "They cut me off," Jessica said. "Not officially, not yet, but I'm out." Pause. Then, "Good. That means you're close." "I have the folder. Langford's initials are on 16 files. I can tie him to 3 suppressed complaints and 2 cases that vanished before arraignment." "And Montrose?" "Still in the building, untouched." "Not for long." Jessica wiped a drop of rain from her cheek. I want to go bigger? Silence on the line. I want a meeting with the prosecutor, she said. Full handover, audio, timeline, transcripts, folder, my statement. That's risky. Once it's official, you'll be subpoenaed. I already was, Jessica replied. Subpoena 2091, remember? The voice hesitated, then, we'll make the call. The prosecutor's office met her in a private satellite suite. No logos, no windows, just bare walls and a single LED strip overhead. Jessica sat across from two reps, a woman with a crooked pin on her lapel and a man with eyes that didn't blink enough. Both listened in complete silence as she laid it out. The recorder, the pre-Miranda violation, the audit trail gaps, the folder, Langford. When she finished, the woman leaned forward, her voice ice-cold calm. We've had concerns about Langford for 2 years, but nothing stuck. Jessica slid the USB across the table. This will. The man opened his laptop, inserted the drive, and typed. His eyes narrowed. This audio, he muttered. It's not just damning, it's time-stamped, with departmental meta tags. Unaltered, Jessica said. Recorded the moment Montrose spoke, before Miranda. The room shifted. You're aware, the woman said, that once this enters the record, you may be subject to internal retaliation. Jessica didn't blink. I already am. The man looked at the screen again. We'll open an internal investigation effective immediately. You'll be protected, but not invisibly. I don't need invisible, Jessica said. I need undeniable. By evening, she was home. Her apartment felt too quiet. Even the hum of her fridge felt accusatory. She double-locked the door and checked her windows twice. On her coffee table, the folder. Next to it, a blank confession form. Not hers, Montrose's. One of the internal agents had slipped it into her bag without a word. A message. They were closing in, and soon someone would be forced to sign something for real. But Jessica knew. The most dangerous moment isn't when they threaten you. It's when they offer forgiveness. She didn't sleep that night. The kind of insomnia Jessica felt wasn't about racing thoughts or anxiety. It was anticipation. Her instincts, finely tuned after years of patrol, riot duty, and late-night interrogations, were now on high alert. Not fear. Not yet. But something was coming. At 03:17 a.m., her hallway motion light flickered. She stayed still, didn't go to the window, didn't reach for her weapon. She simply whispered, "Recorder on," and let it capture the silence. By 07:00 a.m., an unmarked black SUV idled across the street. Not city issue, federal plates. Jessica stepped onto her porch with deliberate slowness, coffee in hand, robe drawn. She didn't look directly at it, just existed. Let them see she wasn't hiding. The SUV left 5 minutes later, and that's when she knew. Langford was officially scared, because they didn't send a message unless the message was, "We don't control her anymore." Later that day, she received a calendar alert on her personal email, not her city one. Meeting requested, Prosecutor's Building, Level 6, Private Briefing Room. No sender, no option to decline. Just the time, 4:30 p.m. When she arrived, a uniformed officer met her at the door. No words, just a nod and a security badge labeled Temp, Witness 47C. Inside, the room was dim, lit by a single table lamp. On the wall, a large whiteboard with timelines, arrows, red circles, and a name. Jack Langford Montrose. Hollow Recordings Chain of Command, JL, MC, DHO. Jessica's eyes stopped at the last initials, DHO. Deputy Henry Ortiz, said a voice behind her, the prosecutor. Same woman, no pin this time, just steel. He's Langford's direct superior, and the man who signed every internal override from 2020 through 2022. You didn't just find a bad cop, Knight. You found the skeleton key. Jessica turned slowly. You going to take them down? The prosecutor didn't blink. We're going to let them take each other down. She opened a leather folder. Inside, dozens of printed emails, memos, internal approvals, some signed by Langford, others by Ortiz. A paper trail laid bare. You'll deliver the final piece, she said. In a public hearing, Oversight Committee, 10 a.m., Monday. Jessica's stomach dropped. Public? You'll be under protection, federal, witness status. It's already set. Jessica breathed through her nose. If she stepped into that room, there'd be no going back, no shield of anonymity, no backdoor whispers. Her voice would be on record, the one who broke the chain. The prosecutor handed her one last item, an envelope, heavy, sealed in red wax. What is it? Langford's personal confession letter. Montrose turned on him, signed it last night. Jessica stared. Why? The prosecutor's voice lowered. He thought if he signed first, he'd be forgiven. Jessica's hand trembled as she took it. You've still got time to walk away, the prosecutor said. Jessica met her gaze. I recorded him before he ever said Miranda, she whispered. There's no walking away from that. She turned and left the room. Behind her, the timeline on the wall gleamed under the light. But soon, it wouldn't be timelines. It would be headlines. The hearing is in 3 days, and in that room, Jessica Knight will face more than the brass. She'll face everything they've buried. The hearing room was colder than expected. Not physically, the temperature was fine. But the atmosphere, glacial, stainless steel nameplates, navy suits with polished shoes, and rows of black leather chairs lined up like witnesses. No eye contact, no greetings, just silence and surveillance. Jessica sat at the far table, a microphone staring her down like an accusation. Her badge was gone, her sidearm surrendered. All that remained was her voice, and the contents of the sealed folder in her bag. The envelope Langford signed, the one Montrose had delivered when the walls started cracking. 2 agents from the Office of Legal Oversight flanked her, but they weren't protectors. They were referees, neutral until the last. Across from her, Jack Langford, gray suit, red tie, unreadable face. Next to him, Deputy Henry Ortiz, no tie, just a cold stare and a too smooth smile. The chairwoman tapped her gavel once. Docket 14033, inquiries into procedural irregularities regarding officer confessions and Miranda adherence. Statement from Officer Jessica Knight, badge 4217. Jessica leaned forward. The mic buzzed alive. I recorded a conversation in interrogation room 2, she began. Her voice was steady. That recording captured a suspect being coerced into signing a confession prior to receiving his Miranda rights. She paused. The room didn't move. No coughs, no pens scribbling, just stillness. I was told to remain silent. Instead, I submitted the audio under subpoena NACR 2091. That's what started this. She reached into her bag, pulled out the envelope. The red wax seal gleamed. This is a signed confession, not from the suspect. From Lieutenant Montrose, it implicates Assistant Deputy Commissioner Langford in a coordinated effort to suppress Miranda protocol in favor of expedited confessions, targeting juveniles from low-income districts. Langford's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Jessica set the envelope down. There's more. Audit trail anomalies, file deletions, patterned use of override, Parsi P702 2, all traced back to a small network within the department's upper command. She slid a USB across the table. This drive contains digital copies of erased interviews, partial transcripts, and falsified closure documents. Chairwoman, did you collect this information independently? Jessica, no. I was recruited by a small internal team investigating the pattern. My role was to confirm the existence of deleted evidence and document chain of custody breaches. Chairwoman, why did you agree? Jessica didn't hesitate. Because the system only pretends to be clean if no one looks under the rug. A beat of silence, then a murmur at the back. Someone whispered, too loud. Wasn't she promoted last year? Didn't she get the captain's pin? Jessica didn't turn around. She stayed on script. In the span of 3 years, over a dozen minors were coerced into confessions without counsel. 5 of those cases were buried. 1 resulted in a suicide. That silenced everything. Even Langford looked down for a moment. Jessica's hands curled under the table. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just kept speaking. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because I hit record when I wasn't supposed to. And because of that, someone finally listened. The chairwoman nodded. We will recess for internal deliberation. The gavel dropped, and the dam cracked. As Jessica stood to leave, her phone buzzed once. No name, just a text. He's going to break. Watch his hands. She turned slowly. Langford was still seated, but his hands, shaking, and Ortiz, gone, slipped out sometime during her testimony. The door at the back of the chamber hung slightly open. A draft slid through it like a whispered warning. This wasn't the end. It was the start of something much bigger. And now the chain was broken wide open. By the time the news broke, Jessica was already gone. Not hiding, not running, just moving. Her apartment was empty, key left on the counter, no notes, no farewells. Just a slow exhale into the crisp morning air as she disappeared into a city that had once tried to erase her, and now whispered her name in every precinct hallway like a rumor no one could silence. Night turned on the brass. She brought down Langford. She's the reason Montrose caved. They said it with awe and fear. The headlines hit hard. Whistleblower cop exposes juvenile interrogation scandal. Langford resigns. Internal Affairs expands probe into upper command. 5 exonerations in motion after recorder audio resurfaces. Jessica didn't read the articles, not really. She just watched people react. A woman on the train holding her phone, tears in her eyes as she whispered, "That could have been my son." A retired officer standing outside a courthouse muttering, "Finally, someone had the guts." A teenage boy recording a TikTok saying, "That's what a real cop looks like." She didn't need medals. She just needed the silence to stop. 3 days later, a package arrived at the prosecutor's office. No name, just a white envelope with no postage. Inside, 1 item, a torn confession form ripped neatly in half. On the back, scribbled in red ink, "Never again." The next morning, Montrose requested protective custody. The morning after that, Ortiz's bank accounts were frozen, and by Friday, a new word was circulating the halls of city law enforcement: audit trigger protocols. Named after one source file, night.j4217 atp v1.log. Jessica moved to a coastal town where no one knew her name, took a civilian role, records auditor, no badge, no weapon, just eyes that had already seen too much. But every now and then, she checked a certain site, public disciplinary hearings, keyword, chain of command, status, open witness. 47C, sealed testimony, still there, still glowing. She never pressed play. She didn't have to, because she knew what it sounded like when justice started with one quiet click. Recorder on, interview closed.